righty. Well, it's wherever you are in the world. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name's Nick. I'm the founder of Best Body Health Coach, founded back in 2011 or 12. So we've been at this for quite some time. And I just want to start off by saying I'm not a doctor. I don't diagnose illnesses. I don't profess to or assert that we cure illnesses. However, our program has been known to handle illness, like all kinds of illness, in fact. So keep that in mind as we go through. I'm sure you'll learn something here. I'm going to try and be as practical as possible and make sure that you get something out of this, whether it be something about health, menopause, weight loss, stress, whatever it might be. So I'll try and keep it as in layman's terms as possible so that it's easy to understand and we don't lose anybody along the way. All righty then. So what I want to start off with is just quickly the origins of Best Body Health Coach. I grew up very sporty. I was an international level athlete when I was in school and after school, national champion. I had national records for the 800 meters and 1500 meters. I was also a sub 4-minute miler in my day as a junior. And as I got older and I got into my 40s, I had no idea about diet. That was one, I had so many misunderstoods in when it came to carbohydrates and proteins and fats. I don't know what they were. I just ate what I put in my mouth. And then when I got like in my late 30s and early 40s, I started to put on weight. And I put on a lot of weight. I put on like 33 pounds over what I was when I left school. I felt that when I left school, I was at my ideal weight, which was when I was 17, 18 years old. So I looked around for as much as I possibly could find. And I found a book called A Letter on Corpulence. So that's the book there. It was written by a guy called William Banting in 1862. And I found that this book, I wouldn't bother looking for this book and reading it. It's a good book and it's good basics and that, but there's so much more that you can find just from our program, because that is the basics. And it was also written in 1862. So food was very different back then, and people's health was very different back then. But this guy had the same problem that I had. He was very sporty. The more sport he did, the hungrier he got, the fatter he got, the worse his health got. And I think I was probably pre-diabetic when I started sorting my health out. Anyway, I started this program. I started this applying what I knew in this book, and I lost 33 pounds in 3 months, and I never put it on again. So I was back down to the weight that I was when I left school, and I was happy with that. And I've never put on any weight since. I've put on a bit here and there and lost a bit more here and there, but I've always kept it on an average. So that's where we came from. So I started coaching other athletes and helping them with the longevity in their sport, especially endurance athletes. And and I followed a guy in South Africa called Professor Tim Noakes. He was a sports nutritionist, or is a sports nutritionist, followed everything that he said. And I ventured out sifting through the sea of information on diets, because as we all know, it can be a lot of fads out there. And, one guy says this, one guy says that, and the opposites. And then you never do anything because everybody's unsure. So I wanted to find out, what was senior as far as the information goes, and take that, apply it, and see if it worked. So anyway, we're coaching athletes, and I've got athletes, families, and friends who also wanted to do the program. And then I had to start adjusting it and make it work for them as a weight loss thing. And eventually I realized I'm doing a health thing. I'm not doing a weight loss thing. It's just purely about health. And I started to realize it has everything to do with the endocrine system. So that's where we all started. And I started to find out very quickly that the endocrine system had everything to do with it. So you've got your thyroid, you've got ovaries, you've got the adrenals, you've got all sorts of little glands in the brain, and the liver, which is also actually an organ, but can be considered as part of the endocrine system because it converts hormones. So when it's failing, it doesn't convert those hormones, and that creates a hormone imbalance. So you have all these things happening in the body. The endocrine system is a communication system, which is a whole lot of fatty little globules, which are glands, and at certain times of the month or day or hour, they secrete little hormones. It goes through the bloodstream, touches on another little gland, and that carries out a command and sends a little hormone back saying, hey, we've done what you said, and everything goes on fine. It like works like a proper organization with good communication. But once it starts being disrupted, and these little fatty glands either start to communicate too much or too little, or not at all, they start to become a little bit psychotic. And that's when things really start to go south as far as health goes. So, we also started to notice back then that people had different kinds of body shapes, which weren't natural. Like they grew up and then suddenly their body changed shape. And when we looked into it, we found that other people had also recognized this in their clients and in their patients. And it turns out that fat gathers around the area that's disrupted. Like if you've got ovary trouble, then usually the girl would get a bigger butt, bigger hips, bigger thighs, tummy, and she would have a disproportionately smaller upper body. And with the thyroid, it does a different type of thing. It puts on weight all over the body, and you start to get the little bat wings on the back of your arms and all this kind of thing. So because it slows your metabolism down. And so we started to realize all of this and research what could help with, for instance, a thyroid. So if you want to support a thyroid that's starting to slow down, which means your metabolism is starting to slow down, you need certain things. You need iodine to help it. I'm not talking about Hashimoto's now. I'm not talking about hyperthyroid. I'm talking about a slowed down thyroid. So you take iodine, and in order to get that iodine activated in the thyroid, you take selenium with it. And selenium also has a bunch of other uses in the body, like removing heavy metals and that kind of a thing. So you start doing that, and the thyroid starts to come to life again. Sometimes some people it works faster than others, and same with the rest of the endocrine system. One of the most difficult parts of the endocrine system to reverse, not impossible, but and not impossible at all. It's absolutely possible, but it does take a bit more than just a physical handling, like a diet and a supplement and that type of a thing, and it takes a bit of an emotional viewpoint change on life and a lifestyle change as far as what kind of information you're accepting as truth and so on. And that's the adrenals. So the adrenal glands sit on top of the kidneys. And when someone takes a massive loss, like money or a loved one or a pet even, or job, something like that, these adrenals go into overdrive, and they produce huge amounts of cortisol, and they just keep going and keep going and keep going, and it doesn't stop. And this is what makes a person wake up at like 2 a.m. like worrying about needless troubles, and then you can't sleep for the rest of the night, and like 5 o'clock comes or 5 a.m. and the sun starts coming up and the birds start singing, and suddenly you realize this problem I was thinking about actually doesn't hold the water that I thought it did, and everything seems to be fine again. And it's the adrenals doing that to a person, and that would make a person get a pendulous belly. In other words, a belly that hangs over your belt and the love handles. So with something like adrenals, you need to take the edge off the emotional side of things. So stop watching the news. Firstly, you shouldn't be watching the news anyway. I mean, it's full of ridiculous stuff. And, don't watch like heavy movies before you go to bed, and watch comedies. Hang around people that are funny. Hang around people that are light. Get rid of the toxic people in your life. So it does take a little bit of life skill to bring your adrenals back. It's not just taking a little supplement, like a supplement that we would give for adrenal fatigue or whatever you want to call it, is ashwagandha. Ashwagandha is probably the best herb that you could, what's a root really, that you could take for adrenal fatigue. So what it does is it removes excess cortisol from the blood, and it just takes the edge off, and it gets you to chill out a little bit, and things just seem a little bit easier to confront in life. So ashwagandha is definitely a big thing. Also, your nervous system starts to take a pounding when there's a lot of cortisol. So you would need to handle your nervous system. So B vitamins start coming into that, and magnesium, and the right kind of magnesium. So all of these things play a role. It's like you can't say there's just what do I take for this? You can't say that, because all these things work in conjunction with one another. So those are the things that you would do if you were very stressed out and you can't sleep. I have a really good book out. It's called How to Sleep Like a Security Guard on Night Shift. And if you lived in South Africa, you know exactly what I meant. That's like wherever you go, you would see a security guard like dead, to the world while he's on duty. And it's they seem to be sleeping better than anybody does in their own beds at home at night. So I thought that would be an apt title for the book. But anyway, in this book, there's a whole lot of really nice tricks. And I tell you, for sleeping, the best trick that you could try is a breathing technique. So if you can't get to sleep, you'd probably, if you had a look at it, you'd find yourself panting like a dog, like short, shallow breaths, like something like that. And that's, your nervous system is just wired and it doesn't want to switch off. So what you would do is you would breathe in counting to 5, like, and then breathe out counting to 5. Do that 3 times and you'll find that a lot is chilled out at that point. So that's the deal with stress. Getting sleep, staying away from the news, going for a simple walk outside. We're not looking at the floor or at your shoes while you're walking, thinking about your problems. Walking, looking at the trees, looking at the birds, looking at other people and what they like, and looking at cars that you like, and just getting out of your head. It's really a valid therapy for reducing stress levels. That's extremely important to reduce your stress levels. Stress damages the body like so badly. It messes up the immune system. It messes up your mitochondria. Your chances of developing something like cancer is raised, I don't know how many percent, with when you have high cortisol levels. So stress is something that you really need to concentrate on, because we are living on planet Earth. It doesn't matter who you are. We've all, it's not an easy place to live. You try to get as much technology and skills to handle life and everything, but life still comes at you. Things still happen, and someone drives up your bum at a traffic light, and you realize your insurance fell yesterday, and things just happen. So definitely, if you can handle your stress, that will handle a lot of health issues. The other thing about stress is that when you have high stress levels, you won't lose weight. You'll start putting on weight. Even if you're dieting and you're eating right, if you're stressed, cortisol will stop you from losing weight. And so it's important that you get your sleep and you get your stress levels down. All right. Now I want to just go into diet and the environment. And after that, I'm going to go into weight loss, which I think a lot of you are probably wanting to know about. But firstly, diet and the environment. So food, especially in the United States, is a crime. I mean, the ingredients that you find in the food in the United States are horrendous. They're illegal in Europe, and they're illegal in Africa, in South Africa, and Australia especially. There are terrible things. There are things that cause cancer and autism and all sorts of things in the food, and it's been somehow passed and put into the food. So you really need to know how to read ingredients on labels and what these ingredients do. It's part of surviving planet Earth, is knowing how to do that. Because if you're buying your food from a grocery store, which most of us do, you need to know what's in there. You don't want to be putting stuff in there trusting someone you don't know. And you can't just think that because these guys are a big corporation making food that they are trustworthy. They're not. They're profit driven. And you need to look at it from that point of view. It's the same with the pharmaceutical industry. It's a profit driven industry. So they're all kind of the same kind of people that run these organizations, and they will try and get anything past you. For instance, on a label, you'll find that if an ingredient has less than a certain amount per serving, they don't have to list that ingredient on that label. So they make the serving sizes less. So there's be like 1 gram of chips, and no one eats 1 gram of chips. But in 1 gram of chips, there's no sugar, there's none of this, there's none of that. But in 5 grams, they are, but they don't list the serving size as 5 grams. They list it as 1 gram. So that's how they get away with it. And there's other loopholes too. So you really need to know these things. So, I mean, safe way of doing it, farm to fork. It's like, from the farm to your plate, eat it. That's the safest way of doing it. Know how the meat or the vegetables are being farmed, and you'll be fine. So that's the thing with food. But obviously we live life, and we can't be like the Amish and grow our own food and all of that kind of thing. But you can at least have knowledge on this so that you don't get caught out unnecessarily, and you can minimize the damage. Because eating the food that they're serving you in the US is literally like digging your grave with a spoon. It's like little bit by little bit, it's damaging you inside on a molecular level, on a cellular level. It's damaging you slowly but surely. 25 years down the line, you have some horrific disease that no one knows how you got it. And it's from the glyphosate, and it's from this, and it's from that, from the aspartame that you had in your chewing gum when you were 20 years old or whatever it was. So you really got to look at this. It's no joke going for the organic and the grass-fed, pasture-raised type stuff. You definitely, that's not a fad. You have to look at that food. If you can find it, go for that food. All right, and then obviously you've got the environment. So we all know what the sun is. We go out there, except maybe people in Scotland, they might not know what the sun is. Just kidding. So if you're going out into the sun, it's extremely healthy to be out in the sun. Don't let anybody tell you that sunlight is bad for you, and that it's going to give you skin cancer and all of this type of stuff. It's absolute rubbish. That, I mean, obviously excessive amounts of sunlight are going to give you some kind of a skin disorder, but a lot of sunshine, it's very, very healthy for you. Your body starts to make vitamin D from that, and that is absolutely necessary for a strong immune system. This is why we are being told that you should put sunscreen on, which is cancer causing. It has cancer causing agents in it, because they don't want you to have sunlight. So you have to get the sunlight to be able to make vitamin D. Vitamin D will strengthen your immune system. Now, you've also got to think of it from the point of view of if you're putting sunscreen on. I'm talking about environmental factors as far as health and weight loss go. So if you're taking a sunscreen, which you bought at some supermarket, and you put it on your skin, it gets absorbed transdermally, in other words, through the skin, because the skin is an organ, and it is the most absorbing organ on your body. So it absorbs it, and it goes straight for your liver, and your liver's under strain. So whatever you're putting on your skin, whether it's deodorant that you're spraying under your arm that's full of aluminum and the rest of it, these things are all going to go straight to your liver. Things like a low quality makeup, skin cream, all of these types of things. You want to sort out your skin, use something basic. And also your skin is directly related to how healthy your body is doing, especially your liver. So your liver starts to show up in the skin with dark spots and eczema and all these types of things. So it normally comes from the liver, because if you look at it, your skin is the largest organ on the body, and the liver tries to expel things through the skin. It tries to get all these toxins out of your body through the skin. So make sure you look after your skin, and as far as the sunscreen thing goes, going back to that, there are natural versions of sunscreen that you can make, like that you can use if you, like, for instance, have little kids that are not used to the sun, or you're not used to the sun and you just want to put something on so that you don't burn to a frazzle, like in your first day on your vacation or something like that. Yeah, absolutely. But look into those types of things. In actual fact, the famous surfer Kelly Slater, he's just come out with a really, really nice version of sunscreen. So environmental factors absolutely have things to do with your health. Looking at things like flying a lot, you're exposed to a lot of radiation when you're flying a lot, which can affect the thyroid. And people go, well, how come my thyroid's messed? I actually am a healthy person. I eat healthy. There's all sorts of things that you're not aware of that can affect you in the environment. Concrete, that hanging around hot concrete, playing football on a field that's been sprayed with some kind of pesticide. I was cycling once in the middle of nowhere in the fresh air of the hills of Belito, and a crop sprayer came over me and sprayed me with glyphosate. And I was sick for probably 2 weeks and ongoing, it's the worst stuff that you can put in. All right, so that's the other thing as well, going back to the food, is make sure that it's organic. Because if you're going to eat GMO food, here's the deal with it. So things like glyphosate, which is a Monsanto product, that's going to mimic estrogen in your body. And when it mimics estrogen, it's going to cause a whole imbalance. So guys start getting man boobs, women start developing all sorts of menstrual problems and menopausal problems and all these types of things. And a lot of it has to do with eating inorganic food that's been sprayed with stuff like glyphosate, which is the Monsanto pesticide, fungicide, herbicide type thing. If you're going to be drinking wine or beer or anything like that, there are more pesticides and fungicides and herbicides in those things than there's alcohol. So the alcohol is probably the least of your worries when you're drinking that type of thing. Okay, cool. So I had some questions. Oh, let me get on to the weight loss thing. So right. We all want to know why we eat healthy, but yet we're not losing weight. So there's definitely a technology on how the body is supposed to operate. And if you go back like 300,000 years to the Homo sapien body when it first started walking around in Africa, before it started migrating out to Europe and everywhere else, there was no ways that it was eating even 3 meals a day. It was probably eating 1 meal every 3 days. So not saying you need to eat 1 meal every 3 days, but the organization in your body, in other words, the way your organs are set up in your body, they're not set up to be digesting food 24/7. The digestive system has many other functions besides digesting food. Digesting food is an important one, but it also builds an immune system, helps the bone cells create stem cells, or the bone marrow creates stem cells, all sorts of things. So you have to have a good digestive system, and it is not good if you have food passing through it all the time, and especially if you have food passing through it, which is not actually food. That's something else that's masquerading as food. So that's why it's important that you get your digestion right. So if you eat something, your mom always told you chew your food. That's not just something your mom used to say to make you do something, because she's the boss. You have to chew your food so that when it goes into your stomach, it's in a form that can be digested properly. So when it goes into your stomach, this is all about weight loss, by the way, and health. So it goes into your stomach, and as you get older, your stomach acid becomes more alkaline. So now you have this food dropping into your stomach, and your stomach acid is not as acidic as it should be. So it doesn't digest the food properly. And then that goes out into the small intestine, which is where it's supposed to be absorbed through the intestinal walls. It takes all the goodness out there. Then it goes into the large intestine that does a little bit of that as well, and then breaks it down even further, and then it goes out the back door. So now if that food doesn't get digested in your stomach, what starts to happen is this. It goes into your small intestine, and it starts to cause all sorts of trouble there. And it starts to mess with your gut bacteria, which means everything starts to become out of sync and unbalanced. Then the bacteria from your large intestine starts coming through and messing with your small intestine. And then you start developing ulcers in your stomach, and all these things start to happen. It's a domino effect, just because your stomach acid wasn't up to the pH level that it was meant to be. So that's why when people get older, they start getting heartburn and acid reflux. That's not because you're too acidic. That's because your stomach acid is too alkaline. If your stomach acid was too acidic and it came into your esophagus, it would literally digest your esophagus. So that is not the reason. It would not do that. So the only way that sphincter valve would open to let that acid through is when it's too alkaline. So of course it feels acidic because it is acidic, but it's not acidic enough to digest your food. So you have to up your stomach acid, digest your food properly. Then you got to make sure that your gallbladder is working properly and that your liver is working properly. So you got to make sure that you fix your liver, make sure that your gallbladder smooths out, so that the bile from your gallbladder goes into your small intestine extracts the fatty acids, breaks them down. That's why my eyes are messed up, is because I didn't look after my gallbladder in my young life, because I wasn't absorbing my vitamin A. So, so you miss out on your vitamin D, you miss out on your vitamin A, you miss out on your vitamin E, your omega-3s, all of the healthy stuff you start missing out on when your bile's not running properly. So now you're not digesting your food, your bile's not going properly. Can you imagine what starts to happen with the body then? So now you start to develop things like SIBO and irritable bowel syndrome and all of these types of things. You start to get gassy and bloated, and you can't eat vegetables anymore. So you move over to the carnivore diet. So now you're missing out on a whole bunch of nutrients that you find in vegetables, your phytonutrients that your body needs, but you can't eat vegetables. So you have to eat meat, which is better than just eating vegetables. It's better than the vegan diet. If you go carnivore, better than vegan, because you get most of your nutrients there, but not all. So now you've got to do that, and it's just not the way you're supposed to be eating. Your body is supposed to be eating food that it was designed to eat. It's designed to eat fats, proteins, and vegetables. That's what it's designed to eat. Even fruits start to play a bit of a destructive role in the body because of the high fructose levels. So you have a fruit that's full of goodness. It's full of vitamins and minerals and tastes great, but it has fructose. And fructose is the worst kind of sugar you can put into your body. The liver is the only organ that can kind of process it. And it literally just turns it into fat and places it on the liver. And you could literally get alcoholic liver from eating too much fruit because of the fatty liver. So your liver just gets fattier and fattier and fattier. And the problem with a fatty liver is not just the fat on your liver, which is compressing it and making it really struggle to do its job. The toxins that your liver is filtering get stored in that fat. The liver doesn't store toxins. So all these liver detoxes that you hear about, they're not real. Your liver isn't toxic. You don't have toxins in your liver. It doesn't do that. It stores it in the fat around your liver. The bile takes toxins from your liver that it can, and it stores it in the bile, and that's how you excrete your toxins, is actually through the bile. It's one of its jobs. So anyway, you get this fatty liver from fruit. So there's all these fads and false information about what's good for you and what's bad for you. And if I had to go into that list, I'd probably get a bunch of questions coming at you and disagreements about what's good and bad for you. So fruit is just one of them. All right. And then if you want to lose weight, you have to look at your insulin levels. So in other words, before that, you've got to look at your glucose levels. So your body runs off 1 teaspoon of glucose. So that's about 2,000 milligrams of glucose. That's what it runs off. It doesn't need more than 2,000 milligrams of glucose, 1 teaspoon. That handles the brain. It handles the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the nervous system that keeps you breathing and your heart pumping. And your nerves work off glucose, some of them. And it has uses around the body, but your body produces as much glucose as it needs. It takes it from the fat, it takes it from the protein, and it produces the glucose that you need, 1 teaspoon. That's what it does. So can you imagine what happens to your body when you drink a Coca-Cola? So you put like 25 teaspoons of sugar, 25 times the amount of glucose, because glucose is just the medical word for sugar, blood sugar. So now you're drinking 25 teaspoons. Now, here's the deal with insulin. It has 2 functions, mostly. It has other functions, but mostly 2 functions. One is to remove excess glucose from the blood so that you don't die. So if you have too much sugar in your blood, you'll become acidic and you'll die. And I'll answer that question shortly. So now you need to remove those glucose because it becomes acidic. That's what happens to a diabetic type 1. He stops producing insulin and his acidity goes too high and he becomes what you call ketoacidosis. Nothing to do with keto or ketogenic state. It's a different thing completely. So really only diabetic type 1s get ketoacidosis. And if you don't stop that, you can die. You can go into a coma and you'll die. So now the pancreas creates insulin to try and attach itself to those glucose and get it out of the person. Like that's why you hear about diabetic type 2s urinating a lot. They're always going to the toilet having a pee because they're trying to get rid of the insulin. The glucose, the insulin is going like, yeah, let's get rid of this glucose, man. The other function that insulin has is it takes nutrients and it opens the cell up like a key and drives those nutrients into the cell. So now you're able to get the energy to fire with this thing fires with oxygen. You get the energy to move your arms and legs and live your life basically and think. And the brain has its own cells, and you have your heart and all these things. And the health is determined on how much nutrients they're getting, okay, and what kind of nutrients they're getting. So if you start thinking about this now, if you're on insulin levels, if you're drinking a Coca-Cola, 25 teaspoons more than what you need. Insulin goes 25 times more than what you need. Later on in the day, you eat a bag of whatever's, Oreos or something, and then glucose levels go up, insulin levels go up, and your insulin stays up here all the time. And it's supposed to be here at a linear level. The cells are little organisms that are trying to survive. And they go, hang on a sec, we don't like this. This is harming us. We are now going to withdraw from this and not allow insulin in. So now here are the repercussions of that, is that now your nutrients are not being driven into the cell because your cells have become insulin resistant. So only a portion of those nutrients are going into the cell. This makes a person hungry all the time. Okay, that's how people become obese, is they can't stop eating because they literally are starving to death. And that's what they feel like, so they keep eating. All right, so now that starts to happen. And as a result of that, they start to develop some kind of a heart disease, or they get brain fog, or their kidneys pack up, or whatever it is, because the cells are not being nutrified. They're not getting the nutrients that they were meant to get. So how do you reverse that? So the nth degree of this insulin resistance thing is diabetes type 2, where they put you on some kind of a drug, which they say you're going to be on for a lifetime. So it has been known on our program every time that diabetes basically is nullified when you eat the right food. So what starts to happen now is if you eat the right food, which keeps glucose levels at the correct level and and linear in that level, so they're not fluctuating because your body's producing the glucose, and insulin levels come down to that, the cells recognize it because they're smart and they go, hey, we actually need nutrients. So let's open up the insulin again because there's not so much of it around like it was bombarding us before. It's not doing that anymore. So they open up and those nutrients get driven into the cell, and they go in with all sorts of other goodness like your potassium, which is meant to go into the cell. And all of these things start to enter the cell again, and the cell gets all excited and it starts to grow healthily. And that's bone cells, brain cells, muscle cells, heart cells. All of these things start to become healthy again just from eating healthy and getting those nutrients into the cell. So if you're someone that thinks that you're going to get better from taking some supplement and not eating correctly, you're mistaken. Because if you're insulin resistant, and if you're overweight, if you think you're overweight, there's insulin resistance there, which means you're not getting those supplements into the cell anyway. So you may as well not buy them. The only way you can fix your health is by eating the correct food and making yourself insulin sensitive again. I'm not talking about taking Ozempic. Don't do that. That comes with a whole lot of baggage as far as side effects go. There's other ways of doing it, healthy ways of doing it, natural, and the actual correct way of doing it. So that's what you need to be doing, is eating the correct food. So I've got a question here. Why do some people get all these manifestations, dizziness, headaches, when they are hungry, and some people don't? Why are some people stress eaters and some people can't eat at all when they're stressed? Okay, so everybody's different, obviously. So a lot of that has to do with emotional type stuff, like you can't eat because you're nauseous from the emotion and you're not going to eat now. Other people eat because they're chronically stressed and the body's kind of gone into this chronically stressed mode. And cortisol works very similar to insulin. So it shuts the cells down so that they're not getting the nutrients that you're supposed to get. That's why it makes you fat. And the person has to eat all the time. So they become stress eaters, and they eat and they eat and they eat. So that's like kind of an emotional eater type of thing. The dizziness and the headaches. So here's an interesting thing. So when you have a lot of cortisol in your body, cortisol robs your body of protein. So it goes for your thighs. That's why you start to feel like your legs get lame. It's harder to walk upstairs when you're chronically stressed. And it robs your body of electrolytes. So it takes the electrolytes out of your body. So now you're sitting with dizziness, weakness, and headaches. Headaches, 90%, I'll even go as far as saying 99% of headaches are caused by an electrolyte deficiency. So usually, and it's usually a sodium chloride deficiency, in other words, salt. Those are the deficiencies that cause headaches. So that's why people get headaches when they're stressed. Some people may not, purely because they might be eating enough salt. They might be, the stress eating that they're doing is laden with MSG and salt and all sorts of other things, so it's not necessarily a healthy thing. So there's obviously lots of different scenarios when it comes to stress eating and the different symptoms that happen with people. But generally, people get robbed of their electrolytes when they're stressed, and then they get robbed of the protein in their body when they get stressed as well. So that's the deal with headache. So if you have a headache, try this. This is if you don't have high blood pressure and so on. So this is just a recommendation. Go and take half a teaspoon of salt and swirl it down with water. Put a bit under your tongue, leave it there for a little while, swirl it down with water, and see what happens to your headache. It's usually that. That is usually the problem with the headache. I mean, there's other hormonal stuff as well. I know a lot of women have trouble when they have their menstrual cycle. They have they get a migraine or something like that. That's a little bit different. But people who have headaches, it's usually an electrolyte thing. I hope that answered your question. Okay, so I had a question about arthritis and menopause. So they're not actually connected. So it might just be coincidental that as you get older, you get this arthritis, and as you get older, you get menopause. That's probably the only correlation with it, but they're not really related as far as, I got arthritis because I went through menopause. Menopause is something quite different. So the thing with menopause is, the thing with arthritis as well is, before you go and onto a whole lot of arthritic medications, especially rheumatoid arthritis, go and take a ton of vitamin D3 and K2. So vitamin D3 is extremely, extremely important for all sorts of functions, especially bone health. So if you find your bones are getting brittle or whatever it might be, you need to take vitamin D, and don't go with the recommendations that have been put out there with like 400 to 800 international units. You need like 10 to 40,000. I would even go up to 40,000 international units of vitamin D, but also balance that out with your vitamin K2, because your vitamin D is going to increase your absorption of calcium into the bone, but the K2 is going to put it into the right part of the bone. So that's why those two go together. They go together for other reasons as well. But you need to be taking the K2 and the D3. Don't just be taking your D3. You need to take the K2 as well, because you don't want to be absorbing calcium in your joints and so on. So D3, K2. The other thing as well is, if you've got like lower back pain, try taking more vitamin D, especially if you find your lower back pain happens like in the winter when you don't see much sun. That's usually what the case is. So I'll give you an example. So there's something called the Epstein-Barr virus, which I have, and it's something you can't get rid of. And Epstein-Barr virus is a very smart virus that messes with your immune system. And one of the things that it does is it muffles your vitamin D receptors. So you can't absorb vitamin D at the level that you want to absorb it. So you become vitamin D deficient. Doesn't matter how much vitamin D you take or time you take in the sun. The one way that I found to get around it is I wear these little vitamin D patches. I don't know if you can see that. So I wear a little vitamin D patch behind my ear, and that gives me 10,000 international units of vitamin D per day, and that actually gets absorbed into my system. When I do that, my lower back pain goes away. It's like, I was surprised when I first found this out. So I put these on, my lower back pain went away. When I forgot to put them on, my lower back pain came back. So lower back pain is very often to do with the vitamin D deficiency. Vitamin D is extremely important for so many things. All right, so as far as menopause goes, you need to make menopause. If you're having trouble with menopause, it's really more of an adrenal issue. So your adrenals start taking over the function of the inactive ovaries now. And if your adrenals aren't in good enough condition when you're going to menopause, you're going to have problems, because your adrenals are capable of producing all the sex hormones that your ovaries are capable of producing. So your ovaries are not doing that anymore. And so your adrenals kick in. This is why you find a lot of women who go into menopause, they put weight on around their waist. So they get this, like, where they were a nice Coke bottle figure, and then they become a figure one, and they lose their butts and they get skinny legs, because the adrenals are robbing them of their protein in the biggest muscles, their glutes and their thighs. And then you'll also find that headaches and things like that start to come with menopause, because of it robbing them of their electrolytes. So you've got to get your adrenals in shape if you're going into menopause. If you're perimenopausal or something like that, it's very important. Otherwise, you're going to have a horrific time. And it doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to have an horrific time. Your adrenals are quite capable of taking over the function of your ovaries if they're in good shape. So make sure that that's the case. All right, I've got another question. Let me just see if I have more questions here. I don't. Okay, cool. So I have another question, which was, as a chef, can I do this program? Well, anybody can do this program. It's a matter of what kind of a chef are you, and are you prepared to understand the information and understand the ingredients that you're using for people that you're making the food for. So like, for instance, if you're using seed oils, would you continue using those seed oils if you knew the correct information on how dangerous they are? So that's really what it would all be about. Otherwise, as a chef, I would think that you'd be standing there tasting your food all day, which would be hard, purely because frequent eating is as bad as eating the wrong stuff, because it pushes insulin levels up the whole day. So that would be my answer to that. It would be a matter of self-discipline, and if you're going to be having to taste food, you would have to take it in and spit it out. That's pretty much how it would go. But of course, you can do the program. And then I've already gone over reducing stress, and then diabetes and excessive acid. Okay, so that all goes hand in hand. I mean, diabetes goes with high blood pressure, goes with heart disease, it goes with a whole lot of things. The thing with diabetes is you've got to get your cells insulin sensitive. You've got to be able to bring it back by eating the correct foods, bringing that glucose down, bringing the insulin down, so that your cells become insulin sensitive again. And once that happens and you start going into a ketogenic state, and don't, when I say ketogenic state, please don't liken me or my program to these fad keto diets that you see on Facebook, where there's flashing lights and fluorescent green writing and that kind of thing. That's not what we do. So we get your body into a state where it starts to run off the correct fuel that the human body is supposed to run off healthily. So it's clean, it's lots of vegetables, it's lots of fat, it's not lots of protein, it's moderate protein, and actually for moderate fat too. So with diabetes, if you just did that and you brought those insulin levels down, your cells would become insulin sensitive again. You would be able to throw out the metformin, and you'd be able to just live life normally again. I mean, obviously, another thing that you've got to understand is, as you get older, you can't eat like you did when you were 20. You can't do that anymore. Your body changes. When you were 20, you had huge amounts of human growth hormone, huge amounts of testosterone, even in women. And, you were like, you could eat a pizza and a burger and you wouldn't see a difference. Now, you hit 40, 50, it's a completely different story. The reason is you're producing less human growth hormone as you get older, less than half the amount of human growth hormone when you were 20. This is horrible. I know. So now when the human growth hormone is a fat burning hormone, insulin is a fat making hormone. So if you have insulin in your body, you're going to get fat. If you have human growth hormone in good amounts, you're going to get slim and you're going to build muscle. It builds lean muscle mass. So the thing with it is that you have to be able to now find a technology, which is what we have, on how to eat and do things so that your body produces its own human growth hormone and you can stay young and feel young. Now, just on that subject, I'm a cyclist, and cycling is a grueling sport. Let me tell you something. It's not just sitting there pedaling on a bicycle. It's a grueling sport, and you need a lot of muscle for that, and you need to be light and strong muscles and all of these types of things. And I can race guys half my age, and it's purely because I eat right. And then the funny thing about it is I eat like a bird. I hardly eat anything. My body's just so efficient, and that's not just me. Anybody can do this. So this is why I invite you to look at this and really take it to heart that it's possible for you to lose the weight that you're carrying, to get your health back, and to keep it. But you cannot keep doing what you're doing if you have a health problem, because what you've been doing is causing that health problem. Most of these illnesses are caused by this environmental stuff. You predispose yourself to it. There's no need for that. So you need to be able to know how to do this and, get those minerals in your body, get your cells, firing like a blooming, combustion engine, like a clean combustion engine. And you can't do that if you're not eating the right food. You will literally, if you're not eating the right food, you're going to get the results that food's going to give you. If you're going to be eating the right food, you're going to turn it back. You're going to turn the clock back. I did a health test the other day where I had a full body scan done. Now I'm 57 years old, and I've been doing this for 14 years. I've been eating like this for 14 years, and I hardly ever cheat. And even if it is a cheat, it just means I ate too much of the right food, not that I eat the wrong food. So I had this health scan done, and I have the metabolism of a 5-year-old child. So I burn 1,720 calories per day at resting. Someone my age is not supposed to burn just over 1,000 calories, like literally just over 1,000 calories per day. So I have that. I have when it basically did the whole body scan and it looked at my skeletal muscle mass and my lean muscle mass and my body fat and my body mass index and all of these things, I didn't put my age into this thing because it doesn't ask you for that. It spat out that I'm a highly athletic male in my early 20s. So and the only reason I'm telling you this is because this is what food does. This is what the correct food does. I'm not different to anybody else. It's not like I have some kind of special make. I'm not an alien or anything like that. I'm the same as you. All I do is I eat right, So, and then there was another question here about protein bars. Pretty much, they ask for pros and cons. There's no pros. There's only cons. They're full of sugar. They have terrible protein in them. They're highly processed unless you make them yourself. So that's the deal with protein bars. Go and have a look at a protein bar. Most of them contain the same amount of sugar as a Snickers bar, and then they have things like soy protein. On the subject of soy, 99% of it worldwide is GMO, and that itself mimics estrogen. So that causes all sorts of lady issues, all sorts of man boob issues, and this type of thing. All right. And then somebody asked me if there was one change they had to make to their diet in order to change things as far as health goes. I would say sugar and anything that makes sugar. So that means don't stop eating sugar. Don't cut it down. Stop eating sugar. Stop eating things that make sugar. Like they go, yeah, well, rice is healthy. One small bowl of basmati rice makes 10 teaspoons of sugar in your body. Okay. So same as a slice of white bread. So all of these things make sugar in your body. So find out what makes sugar. Stop that. Stop eating sugar. Stop drinking soda pop. That's the change I would make if I was to do this. Another change that you can add to it is, go organic and grass-fed, as much as you possibly can, and leave the seed oils out of it. Those changes would change your life. I'm telling you right now. I'm doing this because I want people to regain their health. It's the crime that's going on out there. I see too many healthy people, good people whose health just turns on them and they can't recover from it. Good people where just, they just go out the back door. And I don't want that. So if you feel that you can do this, do it. If you feel that you need accountability, contact us. We run a very nice program. And I'm going to give the program a bit of a punch here because it's successful, and we've helped thousands of people regain their health and get their weight, get their weight loss that they wanted, and so on. So if you need someone to hold you accountable, we'll do that, and we're very good at it. We never make anybody wrong for what they're doing. We've dealt with thousands of people, thousands of different scenarios, and we've helped them all regain their health. I mean, from things like, I have so many nice stories on things that came out of this program which were unexpected. I had a guy in Sweden who had a heart problem, and he was supposed to go for open heart surgery, and he said he needed to lose weight because he couldn't go under the knife because he was obese. And he said, the doctor said I need to lose 20 kilograms before I can go in for this operation. So I was like, okay, great. And he came to me through another client, in fact, in Sweden. This guy came to me and we put him on the program. He did 60 days. He went back to the doctor and they checked him out and he no longer needed the heart surgery because he'd recovered so much. I mean, I laugh because it gives me goosebumps when and we have so many stories like that, So if you're thinking with something, that you need a handle, please contact us. We'd love, we'll put the link down here that you can contact us on. Alex wants to know, if I stop eating sugar and sugar making food right now, then get a bunch of withdrawal symptoms, would electrolytes help, or what would you suggest? So yeah, electrolytes, definitely. You need to have the correct balance of electrolytes. Remember, 2 potassiums for 1 salt. You're meant to take 4,700 milligrams of potassium per day. Some of that you'll get from your vegetables. So that would definitely help. You'd also need to then get your magnesium and your calcium in the right volumes, and also your trace minerals. So definitely electrolytes will help. The other symptoms that you would find are when you start metabolizing fats. You start losing weight now, and now you're burning fat. Your body uses B vitamins, specifically vitamin B2, when it's metabolizing fat. So you become vitamin B2 deficient or vitamin B deficient. So you need to start taking B vitamins. Forget about the B vitamins that you buy off the shelf. It'll take you a long time to find the correct ones. Most of them come from the petroleum product, or petroleum waste products. There's a chemical industry that got into the health industry and they started making vitamins out of their chemicals. So you're literally eating a chemical or petroleum-based product. So forget about the B vitamins you buy off the shelf. Get naturally occurring B vitamins, which come in the form of nutritional yeast. Don't get the Bragg's one that's fortified with the petroleum-based B vitamins. So get yourself some nutritional yeast. It's an inactive form, or an active form of yeast at least. It's not like brewer's yeast or any of those kinds of yeasts. It's actually very nice. I scoop it into my mouth with a tablespoon. I drink it down with water. It tastes a bit like cheese, and you can use it as a condiment. In fact, you can use it as cheese on your food, or as a spice on your food. It tastes quite nice. So those are the 2 things I would do if I gave up sugar, is make sure that I'm having my electrolytes, enough water, because your body will start kicking the water out, because water follows sugar. So if you're eating sugar, you're going to become waterlogged. If you stop eating sugar, you'll lose 5 kilograms in a week, which is about 10 pounds in a week, if you stop eating sugar and all the sugar making things, because you'll just get rid of all the unnecessary water in your body. But with that will go your electrolytes. So you've got to put electrolytes back in your body. That's what your cells fire off, electrolytes. So you have potassium inside the cell, sodium outside the cell, creates this thing called the potassium sodium pump, a little electronic impulse that goes choop, 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 and it takes nutrients into the cell and waste products out, and it does this. So your cells start working properly when you have enough potassium and enough sodium. All right, so I hope that answered that question. And that's pretty much it for this webinar. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned something for it. I know I speak very fast and I've got a very weird accent, but thanks for joining us. And please comment. Tell me if you enjoyed it. Any other questions, any things you'd like to know about, because I'll be doing this every Sunday, so that you can find out about all sorts of things. I can do one on liver, I can do one on diabetes particularly, I can do one on menopause. I can help with anything. Just tell me what you want to know about, and I'll do little webinars on that. Invite your friends to these webinars. Obviously, the more people that get this information, the healthier we make planet Earth. One of the reasons I do this, and this is one of the major reasons I do this, is I like helping people. And that's the honest truth of it. I like to help people. And I find that if I help people, it's better for me too. So I find that when people have the correct nutrition, they're not as cranky, they think clearer, they become more competent. There's a whole lot of positives when people are eating right. So, let's eat right and not eat wrong, and, go effect to this body of ours that we're living in. You don't need that. You want to be going into your old age, not in a walker. You want to be going in an off-road motorcycle, not a walker or a wheelchair. So if you want to do that, you've got to eat right. It's all about nutrition. It's all about getting rid of that kind of stuff and getting rid of the bad stuff and putting in the good stuff. So like I say, I think the link has been put up. Yeah, there it is. It's Best Body Health Coach. So that's the health assessment. So basically you can do that health assessment if you click on that link. And what it'll do is it's a bunch of questions they're not just willy-nilly questions. They're scientifically based questions, which are based off symptoms that show up when you're deficient or disrupted in some area in your body. For instance, if you are highly stressed, you will start to get what the Americans call Charlie horses, so cramps in your calf muscles at night. So you start to get cramps in your calf muscles at night. Do you get cramps in your calf muscles at night? The answer to that is yes. You're probably under stress because your calf muscles have been robbed of the magnesium and the sodium necessary to stop your muscles cramping up. So that's the deal with that. So those are the kinds of questions that are asked in this thing. Do you have a protruding belly? So if you have a protruding belly, that's an indication of some kind of a liver disorder where your liver is leaking something called ascites into your abdominal cavity. So it's all just basically water. And another one would be like, for instance, someone with a thyroid problem. If you have a thyroid problem, what will start to happen to you eventually, one of the things, there's a lot of things that happen, like round about the late afternoon, you start to get very tired and you need to take a nap. And then when the evening comes again, you wake up and you're ready to go again, and then you wake up in the morning and you're okay, and then you get late afternoon and you start crashing. There's energy crashes in the late afternoon. That's a slowed thyroid. So it'll also give you on your nails. If you have a look at your nails, you'll find that if you have those little lines going along your nails, that's an indication of a slowed thyroid. So there's all these types of things that, indicate to us, what's going on with the body. It doesn't mean it's going to be exact, but then we do a consultation call with you. It's all free. The health assessment's free. Consultation call is free. And we do a consultation call and we find out more about it, so that we can set up a personalized program for you so that we can coach you, and we coach you every single day for 60 days. We make sure we get hold of you every single day for 60 days, find out how it's going, handle anything that comes up. We have a bunch of advice letters that we send our clients that will explain and handle any issue that they're running into. And by the time at the end of the program, you'll find that you have the knowledge to be able to control your health and your weight going forward. And at that point, we give you more information on how to maintain this. And also, we don't go away. We're always there to answer questions should you want to know things. So yeah, there we go. Second time that I'm going to say goodbye now. So I hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know what you thought about the webinar and what you would like to find out about, and I can do some more of that. Cool. You guys have a good day, morning, evening, whatever you're in, and we'll speak again next Sunday.